Hi there. This is Progressive Alternative with Victor Monjares. I'm Victor Monjares, and right this time around on a lovely Sunday afternoon, I got this obviously a lot more in delay because I'm busy with a bunch of stuff that I have to do with my local county Democratic Party, and so I couldn't get a video about the Democratic primary debate that happened in this past Friday. Finally got to indulge a little bit more into just rewatching some key moments and some other potential topics that they talked about. I watched it live here and there, but otherwise, watching it through and basically looking at those seven candidates running for those offices for the presidency in the for this year is quite very compelling, and ABC News actually did a very fantastic job. Though I could do more and less with basically those type of questions that kind of are framed kind of in the right wing perspective. But to be fair, you're gonna get that with any question that is against a total personality, because you had that in the Republican primary in 2016. They criticized their plans. They have also, they're doing the same thing here. It kind of would be kind of weird if, or at least obvious if they just say, "Oh yeah, how is it going to rally the people together and keep them constantly appropriate?" When we're talking about Medicare and canceling student debt, and they're talking about those type of domestic policies. It's just really one of those things that there's a lot of people that will do that. ABC did a lot more better than that than CNN did that. They kind of CNN relied way too much on the whole trying to create beef between people just because of the gender and just because of focusing on one thing instead of looking at a more evolution of their policies and making there. So, what I basically took out of this, and it was quite the damn week that was. We had the Super Bowl, we had the impeachment trial, and then of course it becomes a conviction trial. Then they had the votes. Then they had, well, actually, the State of the Union actually came before the votes for the Senate. So it was very cool to actually see the three, actually four. Current United States senators that are running for the presidency, get to put in their voice and actually say guilty or not guilty. The four Democratic ones all said guilty for the president for both articles of impeachment. So it was very cool hearing Bernie. Warren seemed very frizzled out of it, though. Amy Klobuchar, still fiery, but keeping her composure. And of course, Michael Bennett. I don't have a poster of him here. He didn't really do much campaigning, and I can't understand why supporting Frackenloper really is hurting you on my list, even though he does support ranked choice voting. But to the overall essence that I'll get to my rankings now that there's 11 candidates, and now I don't have to worry about Delaney. For some reason, Delaney was always the one that really bothered me. Yeah, especially when he came to this California State Democratic Party conventions, and it's like, oh yeah, but you can't have these radical policies leading the nation, and it's like we all booed him. I was very proud of that. It's like, yeah, well, dude, you make a lot of money and you don't do much, and it's like, oh look, I'm actually getting out of this race because I don't want to hurt Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg's chances of winning the state. It's like, you really were delusional, weren't you? Not like he's ever going to watch this, but anyway. So, we basically start off Chris Stephanopoulos, John Fazier. Then there was Monica Lupez. I might be wrong. And then there were two local affiliated reporters that helped out with the whole process. Yeah, basically it was just from their local New Hampshire ABC network there, and very good questions when they finally when they asked the local reporters about basically their issues, especially the opioid epidemic that was happening up there. Although my father would really contest that, oh yeah, it's an epidemic when it's white people happening, and it's like, to some extent it's an epidemic and the media plays on that a lot. Though for New Hampshire, for a state that has a lot of people in a very condensed state, and basically also relying on Canadian borders to get them their medicine that they need to properly combat these addictionists, or just against bitter ailments, is kind of going to hurt a lot of people in the long run. And it continues to be, New Hampshire continues to be basically described as a swing state, though from what I look at the voter registration, it continues to be more consistently blue, though they do have some Republican leading presence there that can always make it go there, because they have a Democratic governor and two Democratic United States senators, one of them who's running for re-election. So yeah, so they did actually in the debates mention they have to win back the United States Senate. It's like, oh, you have to work with Mr. McConnell. You have to work with Mr. McConnell. You do know that the Senate Majority Leader McConnell, who doesn't do anything, he doesn't want to put anything up for a vote. He basically was pushed to basically get that impeachment vote brought back up finally. And of course, rigging the whole system and just saying, no, we don't want the judge to actually allow the witnesses in. No, we're not doing this like an actual trial. And so it's just so imperative that that's basically a system. It's always the media's attention to say, how are you going to work with McConnell? How are you going to work with him? It's like, well, yeah, there is ways to work with him. And it's like, yeah, it's like, well, one for one, Bernie basically pointed out to say, oh yeah, we'll just because the people in Kentucky are gonna really rally and keep putting pressure on him to put up to the votes about raising the minimum wage, putting those gun safety laws into effect, and to actually put up a vote for it, because he's got this. The Republicans have the United States Senate seat right now. They have the numbers to just reject all those bills. What's keeping them? I wonder why they don't want to vote on it. And maybe it's because they're actually popular and they don't want to put their name on it. Anyway, and then of course most of the candidates did actually say on the debate stage, which was Yang, Steyer, Klobuchar, Warren, Bernie, Biden. And I'm missing one. I know I'm missing one. That would be Steyer, right there, Patrick, and Buttigieg. Oh yeah, Buttigieg. I don't know why I forget about the. Oh yeah, historically gay guy, running for the office, and former mayor. Don't worry, he gets a lot more struggling later on. So it comes to they do discuss about, oh yeah, we need to actually do. Promote our United States senators, or at least the United States Senate candidates that are running for those seats, such as in Colorado, Minnesota, and New Hampshire. Though I think Cheney is pretty much safe there now that there's no big name Trump supporter running in that seat at this moment, at least so far. And and of course Arizona as well. Arizona with Mark Kelly and most notably, because I think there's like another person running for that seat, but unfortunately, he's not getting as much attention. And he doesn't really have that much of a good set of policies from what I read from his website. But Mark Kelly, he's more formidable. He has a better name recognition. He's a lot more concise, and basically has a good, he's not, faking it, and just he does have a slightly progressive stance. But of course, that's good enough in Arizona because it is a swing state. So I can't blame him completely there. But hey, at least I respect the guy. Went up to space, does a good, amazing things back down here for in the planet. And, acknowledging that climate change is an existential threat to our humanity. Thanks, Martha McSally. I know you love calling us liberal hacks, but you kind of represent Arizona, that's becoming now purple, so you have to deal with certain people like us as liberal hacks. Owning it. Anyway, so we got them basically promoting. They didn't specifically state anybody by name, unfortunately, so we couldn't get to see if if Bernie was going to mention maybe Kimberly Graham for the United States Senate seat in Iowa, or Betsy Sweet in Maine. Of course, because they're taking on women that are raising a lot more money. Sarah Gideon in Maine, and Teresa Greenfield in Iowa. And so it's basically becoming those type of things. And that would have been extra points. But of course, I guess, the whole party unity thing really wants them to just still keep it stable until we finally figure out, like, once they get down to, like, the last five presidential candidates. Hopefully so. I was really hoping someone, would be, or maybe someone hasn't brought it to their attention yet, about which candidate is the best to take on those incumbents in those states. And also Minnesota. That's where Amy Klobuchar, I would assume, and I've received most of her emails about Tina Smith, and possibly her seat's in danger as well, because she's only like the interim U.S. senator. She hasn't exactly been elected fully. No, I think she is defending, because I remember back in 2018 there were two elections. There was one to just solidified herself as a U.S. senator, and then there was Amy Klobuchar, who was running for re-election to that United States Senate seat. Now that she's running for the presidency, she basically has to wait like another 4 years, should she not become president and just be a United States senator. So they basically go through the whole usual list about how healthcare is the main priority. Buttigieg and Bernie basically being seen as the top two contenders, and how Biden's struggling, and Warren is not able to really capture as much imagination as she originally wanted to, or getting as much support as Bernie is. And so it's quite compelling to see that everyone was basically on their game tonight. The one person who wasn't really the best, I would say, and this is no offense, that would be Warren. She tried to really struggle to find her standout moment. Yang had a standout moment with this, basically just putting out all these statistical numericals to say, oh yeah, this is why this is happening, the foreign policy, and why the opioid crisis, and trying to have women to preserve the right to have basically reproductive justice. And basically Biden even had some good moments, especially that whole, oh yeah, everybody get up, it was like Vindman got fired by Trump, everybody get up, you should all be helping him out. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah, you had something going there, and then you really had to force it, because of course Biden has to force everything, because he of course has to feel like he has to be the dominant one in power. Yeah, it's like, again, he wouldn't be in this position if he wasn't vice president. You have to thank Obama for that. Thanks, Obama. Oh, by the way, I've actually started noticing Bloomberg is starting to run these ads. And, oh yeah, it's a similar message. I wonder who's running with that Obama message now. Yeah, and I think I think just Bloomberg is just trying to buy his way in. It's like, and then apparently now he can actually buy his way into the next debate, which is happening about a week and a half, if I'm not mistaken, in Las Vegas, because then they're having like the Nevada caucuses there. And if I might be mistaken, but then it would be like South Carolina would be like the next one after Nevada, on a Saturday, by the way, too. So again, please have your elections on the weekends, or at least federal holiday, maybe state holiday. But to be fair, it's like, oh yeah, that's usually other hands, and the whole contemplation between state and federal, and like, oh, is it going to communicate very well? So very well received. Bernie still being consistent, the ever essence of consistency that he can display, and now he's actually being seen as a front runner, and people are starting to criticize him more about his Medicare for All plan, and people are criticizing about whether his age and whether he can still keep his wits a pawn to him. And it's like, and these type of questions weren't really raised too much to Biden and Warren. They didn't do the same thing that they did like a while back on CNN when Tulsi was actually in that debate where they asked the three oldest candidates about their age, and then they just asked Tosi, since she was the youngest, and she still is the youngest in the stage at this point now, about, well, oh yeah, well, how's that youth keeping you up? And it's like, yeah, it's like she called them out on their bullshit, and it's like, again, CNN not great for debates. Just give me the facts. Don't try to put any spins on it or ask people questions. You're not very good at that. Sorry, CNN. So, basically, it all came down to just everyone having a group, everyone performing very well. Let's see. Klobuchar had her signature moments about just really being a woman and that really understands that, yes, we have to put this enthusiasm, put the reality, but and then just thrive past it. And of course, because she has that durability, because she's from the Midwest, she deals with snow, she deals with these consequences of climate change alongside with every one of her constituents that are approached to her, and she doesn't fake it. She doesn't. She just tells you up front, I don't like the idea, or that we can definitely see a route to improve it within the next 10 years, or of that essence. And I gotta give her a lot of respect for that. And she was just magnificent. Mariola, Black Clover, the woman that just knows how to really get very aggressive and just really push you to be your best. I mean, again, quite divine. Let's see. And then, of course, Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer, my goodness. He really came out swinging and not playing it safe anymore. Yes, he kind of always keeps saying, and I got like a mailer from him. It's like, oh yeah, climate change. I'm the only candidate that says climate change is my number one priority, which not really. There's Bernie. You keep lying about that. Stop that. You're not the only one. Though I could say that you could say that I'm making it my only priority. It kind of seems like that, but no, it's not, because he led the efforts of the impeachment conversation and working on Next Gen America, which actually, this is where I got the shirt, is that I got hired by the county party because they were funded because of the Tom Steyer's organization. So, but yeah, he came out with some really good developments, and especially with conversations about the foreign policy and how it's relating to our domestic policies that's affecting back at home, and really making a name for to stand out. And he really had one of his galvanizing nights. And of course, talked about race, which they did talk about race. But then once he really brought it up, then they began talking about race and about reparations and the difficulties that African Americans and Hispanics like me. And I did had to keep pointing out, don't forget about the Asian American vote. They finally did actually bring Andrew Yang about, it's like how important is their vote and what are their problems. It's like, he basically came out, Yang came out with those answers of, yeah, if we can just give them $1,000 a month, and you give them something you give them something more to stand on, they will pay back in much more positivity outlets, a lot more revenue, a lot more spending on small communities, more investments into small communities that can really grow wide. And that's basically what they came out with. This was really one of those debates that was just very concrete. There was like, I thought it was going to go the whole 3 hours, but they actually just went like 2 hours and 30 minutes. And there were only a couple of people that apparently started to get tired, especially Biden. He started to coughing a lot towards the end. And I believe it was Warren. Warren seemed pretty tired as well. And it's kind of difficult to really run those type of campaigns, and whether now, because of the Iowa caucuses results, it's like I did seem like, oh yeah, it's they have those raw votes, and they have those percentages, and now the state party delegates. Yeah, I was okay with waiting for a while. In fact, I actually would like it if just say, okay, we'll have the results out tomorrow, we're counting them, we're working around the clock. That way people are pretty much rested, so they can actually react and maybe celebrate, maybe rework their campaign strategies. Maybe that's just me for presidency. Every other race, like the congressional governors and everything else, they've got to get settled like on that night because everything revolves around them. And unfortunately, we don't get to have a weekend to celebrate it. We gotta go back to work immediately on a Wednesday. Great job there, guys. Great job. Anyway, so debates were quite well constructed, and they, again, 2 hours and 30 minutes, basically around that timeline. And their last question was about childhood poverty, which is important because, of course, we're the richest country in the world. How is it possible that we have poverty for basically all of our children, and even not even just people like me and people African American, Asian Americans, but even just those that we think that would be better off, like predominantly white. They also struggle as well. They also have kids that need food stamps and that need the help, lunch. School lunch programs, and it's kind of baffling, and it's because the industrial complexes don't really want people to thrive. They only want to see, okay, who can survive long enough so they can buy my most products. And that's basically what it's turned into. But with my list that I'm about to reveal, there's obviously one, at least primarily one candidate that I have the most faith that can turn that around and inspire others to do so as well. So George Stephanopoulos, just the arch rival to Vice President Mike Pence. Yeah, it's like, again, I'm not a fan of that vice president. Again, I want him gone before Trump is. But then again, he could leave. He doesn't want to get riled up in that debacle. Again, I'm not going to try to be too confident about this, but of course it's going to be a grind. I mean, I had to go through a bunch of Democratic meetings about, how are we going to best perform and make sure that people are motivated to come out and vote for more Democrats instead of more people just having a doubt or just having this downplayed system to say, my vote doesn't matter. Maybe not for the presidency, but they still gotta vote. You're down the ballot races, so it still do matter. Propositions, all that stuff, and it's like that's kind of my message all the time. And George Stephanopoulos kind of just really reiterates to the candidates to be a lot more motivating, or be, what can they address their weaknesses, such as Pete Buttigieg with his relations with race, especially as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who had constant problems dealing with basically police brutalities against African Americans and Hispanics, or Latinos and Latinas. And it's just really, and Buttigieg is just not improving. That doesn't give me a lot of hope. He'll get a lot of hope with people who are from the LGBT community, but those are the ones that are most likely going to be rich and just like says, I just don't want to be offended anymore. But it's like no improvements. So you're going to still have enough to say all those people that used to support Biden, or especially the ones with big money, are going to now start to either go to Buttigieg or Klobuchar. And so that would be something that is a magnificent night. Biden still had a good performance. Unfortunately, he still kept stumbling and didn't have the best answers to be better adapted to give a lot more enthusiasm to say, I get it. Like Amy Klobuchar, who actually did a lot more better about saying, being pragmatically progressive, to say, here's the reality. We get it. We don't get to, you want all of this, but here's what the barriers you have to gonna have to come through, and you're gonna have to be a lot more patient, or you're basically have to accept like compromises. And of course, Bernie is pretty much strong enough to take on those type of criticisms. And Warren wasn't attacked a lot about this, and unfortunately, she's not viewed as the front runner anymore after that debate. I definitely think the top five is just basically Klobuchar, Biden, Buttigieg, Warren, and Bernie. At least at the current state of the race. Now, Bloomberg might be the wild card when he investing all that money in the Super Tuesday states, including my state, by the way. I have my ballot actually right here, and already basically filled out my presidency. You don't worry, you'll figure that out. I think you can figure out what that is. So, and of course, I'm actually in. My name's actually in this ballot, actually right here. I think I can easily show it to you. Ooh, yeah. Can you see my name? Can you see my name? Can you? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can see my name. Anyway, I'm a driver. Apparently, they put in my ballot designation as driver. I don't know why I covered the rest of that up. It's not like anybody can do anything with it because it's a paper ballot. It's like you have to actually have the paper ballot to do anything with it. But anyway, so it's basically a lot more, and people do it on Facebook and Twitter anyway when they do it on their statewide ballot stuff. I think it's just really imperative that, because people around here are going to basically be kind of waiting for about maybe 2 weeks after getting their ballots to see who we're going to choose for as the presidency to have the most impact on my ballot, basically, or my vote. Because there's always that equation about civic duty, impactful vote. Oh yeah, and of course all the resources being put into like either putting that ballot back in the box and basically, or voting in person as well. Especially for those who are no party preference, they have to actually go to the polling place on election day and basically have to surrender their ballot and ask for the Democratic primary. Kind of always thought that could be adjusted, but that'll be something I'll have to discuss like with the state party in like next year when they reset their rules and basically stuff like that. The procedures process. So so debate just went pretty well. I thought it was magnificent. I'll have to give it a B plus. B plus for this reason. Actually, let's make it A minus. A minus. I thought everyone just came out wonderfully well established. All the 7 candidates. Andrew Yang giving it his all, even though his numbers are starting to deplete, and basically this campaign he had to fire some of his staff. All of that, he still came out pretty well constructed. Even though he still got the less amount of time. It would have been nice if he at least gets to double digits of speaking time, please, guys. Because he's getting a lot more better with his foreign policy and other aspects of his domestic policies as well. And just really constructive. Klobuchar was magnificent. Steyer was just phenomenal. Warren was good, but not fantastic enough to really create any moments for himself. Biden was enough to keep him around past South Carolina, which is apparently supposed to be his strongest state. And Buttigieg, he did fine, but he wasn't magnificent, and especially because of the race relations. Dude, really improve on that. And Bernie, of course, consistent Bernie. So let me go quickly down to the list of my ranked choice voting. Now there's 11 candidates now, at least major candidates. I think now there's like 742 candidates running for the Democratic ticket, according to the FCC reports. But of course, nobody pays attention to all those other ones. Only to the ones that are able to make that money and get into the news media. Yeah. Anyway, Biden, 11th. Yeah. Again, just boring, not enthusiastic for me. Again, this is for me. This is for me, and just like, yeah. My vote is like, yeah, Biden would not, he would still be like on the 11th. Yeah, I would still vote for him. Again, the whole platform to say, yeah, vote for the Democratic nominee, who no matter who it is. Yes, this time around, yeah, I will do that because there's nobody intriguing in the Libertarian or the Green Party, nobody, and there's no chance for them getting 5% of the vote anyway, because I live in California, so. Again, be enthusiastic, but of course, it's the level of enthusiasm. And with Biden, he's on the bottom. Sorry. Buttigieg, 10th. Yeah, just, again, not very good with his race relations. Not doing anything very well constructive. I haven't even seen him endorse any down-the-ballot candidates. I love it when my candidates endorse and create momentum for others. Help them out. Bloomberg, number 9. Again, I get now that we're like down to 11 candidates now, the circumstances is, oh yeah, most of the candidates I don't really like that much are kind of in the top tier there. don't worry, not too top. But Bloomsburg, yeah, annoying. He's gonna buy his way into basically almost everything at this point, and DNC bad job of just like, oh yeah, let's flex it so we let him in, and no, let's not put in Corey, let's not put in Julian Casper, no, let's not put in Kamala Harris. No, we're gonna make it more difficult for them to, but not for the white guy who has so much money in New York City. Oh, because we know how that went well last time. DeBall Patrick, number 8. Sure, he's kind of bland. I saw his little town hall meeting, and it wasn't really enthusiastic. There was no connection. To be fair, he was like placed in the late spot, so there was not that much enthusiasm placed on his candidacy. I don't know why they didn't invite Tosi. Again, CNN. They're kind of like the one of the bottom tier networks. I like their facts, but then once they try to put their political spins or Comos or everyone else except for, yeah, everyone like in CNN is just so constricted. Nobody's really freewheeling. They let Cuomo have freewheeling, but of course, yeah, we don't really like that. Though he does do a pretty good Bernie impression. I did hear him do that. Bennett, he would be seventh. He would be seventh. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I don't like it that he supports Frackenlooper. He does support ranked choice vote. He does do a lot of good. He's still consistent with his work, at least in BC. In Colorado, I do read some reports and hearing some things of just they're not really liking Bennett anymore because he's starting to lose focus on his hometowns and it's just really keeping honest. And he doesn't endorse anybody or try to help people down the ballot in Colorado, especially those congressional seats that they kind of flipped over the last cycle around. So come on, Bennett, wake up. Andrew Yang, 6. That would be it. He's just. Yeah, he still continues to be quite impressive, improving on his in foreign policy. People keep saying for him to run for the United States Senate seat in New York, but again, he can actually run in any state in the country, which is not restricted by law. For him to be, of course, he can run anywhere, but then once he wins, like an election in any state, he has to actually live there. Then. I might be mistaken. Somebody please correct me on that on the comments. Tosi, she's number 5. Yeah, she still continues to hang around there. Still has a very good base of support that can easily fund her race, even past the Super Tuesday states. But New Hampshire is the one she really needs to make some kind of impact in. And just say that, oh yeah, she can get into the top 5. To really disturb that whole race and because now Tosi lives in New Hampshire too, so she can vote for herself there. Maybe even try to run against the governors or any other seats there. Stay tuned, Tulsi. You still have a good enough future for you to stay there. It's like, but not anything more than the presidency is kind of out of reach. Except for maybe Secretary of State, but that would only happen in a Bernie Sanders administration. At least somewhere in the military. Klobuchar, 4th. Yep, Amy right here. There she is, Mariola. Being so determined, pragmatically progressive of her stances to just be very constructive, be very honest, and Minnesota really loves her for that, and I'm just yeah, she's pretty tremendous individual. She's at least debateful wise, and it's just pretty impressive. Tom Steyer, number 3, finally came out swinging, finally did something. Really trying to promote some United States Senate seats and some understands their situation, especially bringing out the whole conversation about, oh yeah, sure, what is the litmus test? I think everyone knows what everyone is here, is that we preserve the right for women to have an abortion or to have reproductive justice, to have that essence, and we will have nominate a Supreme Court justice about on the Supreme Court about upholding Roe versus Wade, and that's important, and that's helpful to women out there that need reproductive care. There's no laws against men having reproductive care. Yeah, kind of something about that. Elizabeth Warren, number two, supporting, helping people down the ballot. She is starting to lose her steam, especially if she doesn't do very good in New Hampshire. And whether she lands in the top three, top five, will really depend on what is that margin between her and Bernie. And of course, number one, obviously, most likely my vote is going to go to in this primary. And unfortunately, I don't have a ranked choice voting system here. I think Maine and Minnesota do. That's basically it. That's what the lined up there is. This has been Progressive Alternative. I'm Victor Monjares. Uh, like, comment, share, subscribe, and just have a fantastic rest of your week. I have some doubts of how anything else could top whatever happened last week. And well, see you next time for the next debate or any other continent might have. Until next time, have a wonderful time. Nail it.